I believe the class of 1999 is a Terminator prequel. Here's the idea, and I've seen this around a few places, and I think I've posted the main video on our YouTube channel, I believe. But anyway, the idea is that there are a couple Terminators prior to the first Terminator movie that we see. Like the movie that we're seeing in Terminator is like the second or third time robots have been sent back.
Yeah, no one would get it that perfect on their first go. Yeah, there were tons of experiments. Yeah.
Well, so there's an idea that there is an original unaltered timeline, right? So first off, there's the idea that like every time you go back in time, it creates like a new timeline, a new sequence of events. So there exists a timeline in the Terminator universe that like never had any robots going back in time in, and Skynet like developed more naturally. And so I think that class of 1999 is within the universe of Terminator, but it's before any of the time travel happened. So the world gets out of control, right? The gangs are going crazy. Humans are starting to create robots and cyborgs to do their bidding. They very clearly use them for war purposes, right? Because in 99, the robots, the cyborgs, they're like repurposed
war machines, man.
Terrible idea, by the way.
But that's one of the most believable ideas of like, of course they would do that.
Right. Yeah, it's a government job, man.
We save some money. Well, you just put it under another branch, but whatever.
Skynet, that was all created as warbots, right? It was supposed to sort of be like the cybernetic portion of the military. So here we see them actually doing that and actually being successful, and they start creating these human-looking robots, for infiltration and whatnot. Now, they establish in the Terminator movies that Judgment Day, the day that Skynet takes over and nukes the entire world, that's not a fixed date. In Terminator 2, they make it sound like a fixed date, but in number 3, they sort of retcon that and say that Judgment Day is inevitable. Like it's going to happen no matter what.
If it's not 1997, then it's 1999 or it's 2020 or it's whatever.
Right. And so in Terminator 3, it happened in like 2004 or something. So like it is an inevitability, but it didn't happen in this timeline yet. Like it happened much later. And the video that I saw that did this theory, they said that like the events of the first Terminator would look nothing like the movies. Like it would be almost an unrecognizable movie. And so I'm looking at class of 1999, like, I don't know, like it has like the right story elements in it, but it's a completely different movie. Now, the reason in the Terminator movies, the reason why Judgment Day has been moved up so much is because there's an idea that every time the robots go back in time, they're essentially like speeding up their progress, because in the first movie, parts and pieces of the Terminator are left over, and then someone discovers them and starts tinkering around with it and sort of reverse engineering it. So that like moves up the timeline of Judgment Day, so it can be in 96 or whatever.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna go with why not.
So that's the initial theory. Yeah.
Two things totally separate, but one is, where does this world lead that they would have to eventually time travel? Like, does John Connor exist in 99, in the class of 99?
Yeah, I think he does, but he doesn't exist in the movie class of 99, but he exists in somewhere in that world, wherever. See, where does Terminator take place? Does it take place in Los Angeles?
I think it's LA. Yeah.
So yeah, he's Sarah Connor is in LA in 1999. John Connor he's in some other crappy high school right? Like,
right. So if the robots succeed in the test run of Seattle, then they could bring all the robots to the other schools that weren't so gung-ho about getting on board, and then be able to kill John Connor.
well, no, they wouldn't kill John Connor because they have no knowledge of him being the leader of the resistance yet.
So okay.
Right. So this is the unaltered timeline. There's no time travel in this timeline until they do it. So in the Terminator movies, like Skynet goes online and like near instantly becomes self-aware and decides to like end war by trying to kill off all the humans. In Class of 99, the cyborgs, potentially Skynet, renamed Megatech in this.
Which is a great name.
Right? It's mega. It's tech.
It's Megatech.
We see them become sentient, but more slowly. We see that they become sentient and that they like kind of don't like humans, right? Like it's not just that they're killing bad kids, it's that they're killing
they killed all the scientists, they killed the principal.
So they become sentient and they have an extreme prejudice for humans. And so in the Class of 99, we see like more of a slow rise to sentience that eventually leads to like some sort of robot war that may or may not have like a big Judgment Day nuclear explosion in it.
But it has enough. The future, not that I've seen Class of 99 too, but the future of this world would have to be such that John Connor still led the resistance and did a good enough job destroying the robots that they desired to mess with time.
In Terminator, I think that they say something like, I'm a little fuzzy on it, but I think the human resistance is like pretty close to potentially winning the war, and that's why the machines travel back in time, because it's sort of their last ditch effort. Right. And then they like start realizing, oh, we have the technology and we can like start affecting the outcome of the war through time travel.
And so each time they jump back in time, Skynet's Judgment Day moves up, and so Skynet gets a little bit closer to like turning the tides back to the robots. So obviously there are two worlds here. There's the world of movies that exist, right? Mm-hmm. And so this movie exists and the Terminator exists. So therefore we can say that they are in the same world, mm-hmm. even if the writers and directors and producers have no connection whatsoever, right?
So there is another fan theory out there that says that the other Arnold Schwarzenegger movies are actually training programs for the Terminator. The first Terminator, that is when Arnold was either, playing sort of background characters, not really big, or he was playing villains. And it was sort of like Skynet is really interested in infiltration, right? That's why they start trying to camouflage themselves as humans. And so it gives him this program. It gives the original Terminator this experience of like, here's what humans are like. And so he goes back and does his mission, like trying to be like, I'm a human, right? Like this is how they act, right? But so he fails. Now we have another T-800, but we need this T-800 to be a hero, specifically like a badass action hero. So now we start getting movies like Predator, Commando, right?
Directed by this cat.
It shows that like, okay, T-800, here's how you become like a heroic leader, selfless heroic leader, right? And so now the Terminator goes back in Terminator 2 to protect John Connor as a hero. One of the things Arnold Schwarzenegger didn't like about playing the Terminator is that he's not emotive, right? Like there's not a lot of acting. And so in Terminator 3, they gave him some more emotive things, and they make him like kind of funny. So in the world of movies, that's when we start getting our Kindergarten Cop and Jingle All the Way, right? They're trying to give, and Twins, they're trying to give him like a personality, right? They're trying to like give him some comedy and whatnot. So, but yeah, back to Commando, which is directed by the same director. What's his name? Mark
L. Lester.
He created Commando, and Patrick Kilpatrick, the PE teacher, he is in Eraser, another Arnold movie.
Oh, yeah.
So is Mark Lester potentially a program that writes these different scenarios. So Class of 99 is actually, it's not a movie per se, but it's like a history lesson to the robots of like, here's how this all started. And you can like feed it into your brain and like sort of see it firsthand. He's created that scenario. He's created that program. He's also created this training program called Commando to teach the T-800. And Patrick Kilpatrick, he's just one of the many models, right, that they put into the program.
So what we need to do is take every Arnold Schwarzenegger movie and add a stinger after the credits where it's him in the makeup of whatever character he's in, where he just takes off his face. Yeah, I love that theory.
And there's also a connection between Predator and Terminator in that. So they show in Terminator 3. Actually, they don't show it. It's a cut scene, but they show Arnold Schwarzenegger as like a soldier, and he's like got this weird Southern accent. He's talking about the Skynet program and how they're going to start making these robots that look like humans or whatever. The implication is that he's the person that they based the T-800 design off of.
Okay.
Now, I guess in Predator, they say that Dutch, Arnold Schwarzenegger's character, they say that he is an alien killing cyborg or something like that. And I guess like if you look at his dog tags or something, they have like some lettering on them that are similar to like some codes and lettering in the Terminator universe. So this is all from people that like, you know, do the screenshots of like when the information overlays come on.
Right.
And it's stuff that you only see for a split second in the movie, but they screenshot it and then look at it and dissect it. They're using like a lot of the same number sequences and abbreviations between Terminator and Predator. So implying that either one, Dutch is a Terminator, he's an alien killing cyborg, and that's why he's able to stand up to the Predator, or Dutch is the original soldier that was like so badass that they're like, oh, we got to make more of this guy. And so they start making the Terminator 800 series.
So Dutch would exist in the Class of 1999 universe, but he would just be doing his own thing.
Right.
What Predator would be running parallel to this.
Right. Well, so Predator would be before the events of 99, while the world is still relatively normal.
So I want to play this out. So Last Action Hero,
program,
but the program has a cartoon cat that works at the detective cop place. So does Skynet know something that we don't know? And are cartoons real? And do they exist? A la Who Framed Roger Rabbit? Is that what the Terminator's saying? Why else would you have that simulation?
Well, so if you have a simulation, I mean, you could like make anything. It's like the holodeck, right? Like they could program anything in.
But why would they if they're training to be more human-like to infiltrate through time? Unless they thought cartoons were threats.
Or maybe that they thought cartoons were real. Like you might encounter this. We don't know a lot about the humans, but
so that's perfect. So Skynet, like they can travel through time and they create humanoid robots, but they're like,
oh, who's that singer that did the music video dancing with the cartoon? Paula Abdul, yeah, they saw that video from their archives and they're like, oh, you might encounter this.
Yeah, like we're not 100% sure if cartoons are real or not real. That makes me love Skynet so much. Like we want to kill all humans and we might want to kill all cartoons. It's still out. The jury's still out on this.
Here's the next part of the theory. People have said that Terminator and The Matrix are part of the same universe. Chew on that for a second. Terminator is like what happens prior to the world of the Matrix. So the
Matrix is when Skynet wins.
Yeah, that's the future where Skynet wins.
Yeah,
and they enslave the rest of humans as batteries. Now there are potentially a few problems with this, but I think Class of 1999 actually smooths those problems out.
So Class of 99 bridges the gap between Terminator and Matrix.
The reason the Terminator Matrix connection isn't like more widespread. Well, one, because it's just really nerdy and ultimately doesn't matter. But it's because I think before the Matrix sequels, I can't remember if it was after the Matrix or if it was after the Matrix 2, they came out with the Animatrix. And in the Animatrix, they have like this really sweet, like, here's the history of the Matrix. It's called like the Future Renaissance Part 1 and Part 2 or something like that. But it's about the war between humans and machines. And they say in that for a time, humans lived peacefully with machines. And that's the objection to the crossover. But in reality, it's not that humans live peacefully with machines. It's that machines were subservient to humans, so they lived alongside them, right?
All
in the same way that
99.
Yeah, right. They have created these really advanced robots to do work for them, to do mining, to do war, and then I
teach algebra.
To teach algebra, exactly. But I think there's some sort of event that happens where, like a robot kills a kid or something like that, and humans start like, hey, these robots are no good, and so they start like killing all of the robots. They kind of like a book burning, but with robots. But they've become like semi-sentient at this point in time, if not fully sentient, and they're like, oh no, we got to like protect ourselves. Thus, the war begins. And so I think the class of 1999, that's we're seeing sort of the events of the early Matrix history happening, right? This is the untarnished by time travel timeline.
The problem there is if the untarnished timeline leads to the Matrix, then why would you ever need to time travel as a Terminator?
The big problem with Terminator and most time travel movies in general is that they create causal loops, right? Like, I'm my own grandpa. So they're called causal loops, right? Like, you send someone back in time to prevent something from happening. But if that thing never happened, you would never have gotten sent back into time.
Right. John Connor couldn't be born without Reese. That was his name, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Going back in time and then, making sweet love.
Stooping his mom. So the way to like explain yourself out of that is that, well, when that happens, a new timeline has been created, and the world that currently exists just goes on existing.
So it branches out, and there are two parallel timelines.
In the original timeline that doesn't resemble the Terminator world at all, they just kept going, right? They sent these Terminators back, and the humans sent Reese back, and then they like never heard from them ever again.
So the irony is in the one parallel timeline where Skynet wins and it becomes the Matrix is the one where they don't tamper with time travel.
Or maybe they did tamper with time travel and they just wound up winning anyway. Now we've like opened ourselves up to like infinite possibilities of how this is going to play out. And in some versions, the humans win despite the machine's best efforts. Sometimes the machines win despite the humans' best efforts. So anyway, that's my theory, man, is that Class of 1999 is a prequel to Terminator, and that it bridges the gap between Terminator and The Matrix.
I love it. I'm 100% on board that we can connect three of the greatest movie franchises on Earth.
We've connected all of the Arnold movies as well. Yeah.
We also need to see the Class of 99 Part 2 substitute, because that might shed more light on this series. So if anyone else out there in the universe would like to, and they've seen Part 2, maybe they could help us out and either refute our claims here or help us cement them even more into the reality that we know.
One last thing I'll bring up that connects these is in The Matrix, we have Neo, the One. We have this idea of like messiahs, chosen ones, prophets.
John Connor.
And that starts in the world of the Terminator, right? Like he's like sort of destined to lead the humans to victory. And number 4, they call him like a prophet. Like some people think he's a prophet. So they start building in that sort of religiosity within this conflict between humans and machines, and then that eventually evolves into a human who is within the machine being able to like control the machine. That's it. That's what I've gleaned from a day of going down the rabbit hole into Terminator theories.